Hello and welcome to Lesson 6 in our course on Generative AI for investors and VCs. Today we're talking about Generative AI and venture capital. So Generative AI, as we've talked about before, also known as artificial intelligence, that can generate new content. It has the potential to potentially revolutionize a wide variety of industries, creating artwork, music, generating realistic images and text. I'm excited to see its potential impact. However, as a venture capitalist, what you really care about, outside of how it can be used, is identifying promising startups. This won't be much different from identifying startups in other areas, but we'll talk about in this lecture some slight tweaks and some small differences that you need to realize when looking for a promising AI startup. So the first is the market demand. A lot of the applications of generative AI are very interesting. However, it is unclear if there is huge market demand for some of the services being offered. So it's important to look closely at this market demand. Additionally, is there something unique about the startup that you're looking to invest in? There's been some debate in the community recently about the moat that startups build on, and we've talked about this briefly. But if everyone is building on the same set of foundation models, how do you differentiate? You should look at the team. Do they have a strong team? Historically in the field, people have thought that you need a lot of people with PhDs on the team or a lot of people from large tech. I think that is not the case in general, and oftentimes some of the strongest teams come from a diverse set of backgrounds. For traction, typically you would look at revenue numbers. In this case, because generative AI startups are sometimes so expensive to get off the ground, there may not be growth in revenue, but there are other growth markers such as technological progress or usage. And then finally, you'll look at the startup's ability to scale. So let's dive into each of these a little bit more deeply and quickly review those 5 points. So first, market opportunity. There are many industries that the generative AI systems have the potential to disrupt, and so you should identify those markets. This could be in insurance, this could be in finance or healthcare. You'll need to look at the generative AI startups that are innovative. Are they doing some clever text to code to image service that allows you to much more quickly generate captions or something? It's very important to realize that innovation is sparse when building on these same foundation models, and so to be able to identify that innovation is extremely powerful. We've talked about the team. We talked about traction. For scalability, again, in the vertical that you select, it's important to see if not only there is the market opportunity, but the ability for the startup to address the market's demands. So, as with any good investment, it's important to consider the potential returns on investment and some associated risks. One way to assess the potential return is to analyze the company's financial projections. This is obvious, including revenues and expenses. A lot of these companies starting out, their expenses will drastically exceed revenues, but this can still give you a sense of the company's growth potential and how it may perform financially over time. Additionally, you should see the competitive landscape. This field is extremely crowded with a lot of churn, but there is the potential for one or more companies to differentiate themselves quite well, depending on what their unique value proposition is. In addition to some financial considerations, there are risks and uncertainties associated with generative AI startups. The biggest risks, in my opinion at least, are regulatory, coming from biased generation and harmful generated content. There are, however, technological risks, such as building a new foundation model, and market risks, considering the vast influx of talent and capital. It could be the case that it's hard for any single company to really capitalize on this trend. As an investor, we hope that we can support the growth of our generative AI portfolio companies. So there's a few things that you can do: provide funding, stay up to date on the algorithmic developments, and then offer technical mentorship and guidance. In this case, however, we'll dive into these a little bit deeper. So there are many different investment cycles, and providing funding at the key points in a company's development can ensure that they have the resources needed to grow and scale. Whereas previously it might have been that the funding mostly went to marketing and sales. In this case, the funding might go literally to buying GPUs to help the company expand their offerings. Interestingly, algorithmic development is moving quite quickly, and some say it's moving exponentially quickly. As generative AI technology continues to advance, it is important to stay up to date on these latest trends and developments. This may involve watching interesting courses on generative AI and venture capital, doing research and development yourself, and supporting a company's efforts to maybe attend conferences. Providing guidance and mentorship for a company's technical team can be difficult for a lot of venture capital firms who don't have that deep expertise themselves. But by providing introductions across your portfolio, you can ensure that companies have the most resources that they need to build a strong foundation for future growth. Additionally, you can connect them with industry experts and advisors who are always interested and excited to give support on product development and technical infrastructure. Overall, it can be very rewarding to work with generative AI startups. However, the market is quite new, and so a lot of the points discussed today may be irrelevant tomorrow.